Quantum manifestation feels hard, and everyone tells you it's because your vibration is off, or you're not believing hard enough. But here's the truth. Nobody's saying that difficulty has nothing to do with the universe resisting you. It comes from a single invisible point inside you, where your energy is trying to move in two directions at once. One part of you is calling in the life you want, while another part is still holding the emotional posture of the life you've already lived. This conflict doesn't scream. It lives in microtensions, tiny hesitations, scattered signals that shape your field long before your desire reaches the surface. The universe isn't resisting you. You are interfering with your own signal without realizing it. And once you understand this internal split, once you see where the static is coming from, everything changes. The difficulty dissolves. The resistance disappears, and manifestation becomes almost suspiciously easy.
There's a reason quantum manifestation feels hard, and it has nothing to do with the universe ignoring you, your vibration being broken, or your technique being wrong. The difficulty comes from a single invisible point inside you where your energy is trying to move in two directions at once. One part of you is calling in the life you want, while another part is still holding the emotional posture of the life you've already lived. This conflict isn't obvious. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. It lives in microtensions, tiny hesitations, scattered signals, and unconscious habits that shape your field long before your desire reaches the surface. And this is the real secret. Quantum manifestation feels hard only until you understand this internal split, because the universe isn't resisting you. You are interfering with your own signal without realizing it. Not through negativity, not through lack of belief, but through the subtle friction that forms when your old identity and your future identity try to coexist inside the same emotional space. People assume manifestation feels hard because reality is slow. But the field isn't slow. The field is immediate. What creates the feeling of delay is interference. Vibrational noise inside your system that distorts the broadcast long before it reaches the quantum. That interference doesn't come from external obstacles. It comes from the internal fragments of identity you still carry. Old fears, old memories, old emotional reflexes, old protective patterns that get activated the moment you try to expand. The difficulty isn't outside. The difficulty is the static within. Think of your inner world like a tuning fork that's trying to resonate with a new frequency. If there's even one small point of tension in your chest, one old belief running quietly in the background, one emotional memory your body hasn't released yet, the fork vibrates inconsistently. And when the vibration is inconsistent, your desire feels far, even though energetically it might be inches away. You're not wrong. You're not blocked. You're simply divided. Quantum physics describes this division as decoherence. When two or more frequencies inside a system fail to synchronize, the system can't collapse into a stable reality. It wavers. It oscillates. It tries to form but keeps losing clarity. That's exactly what happens in your body when you try to manifest from a place of internal conflict. Your thoughts say one thing, your emotions say another, and your physiology broadcasts a third signal entirely. The universe doesn't respond to the loudest one, it responds to the most consistent one. And consistency is the first thing to disappear when there's friction between who you are and who you're becoming. Neuroscience reveals the same pattern. When your past identity is still active in the nervous system, your brain runs predictive loops based on emotional memory. Even if your mind wants the future, your physiology is still preparing for the past. This creates a mismatch between intention and embodiment. You try to feel aligned, but your body is still rehearsing the frequency of an old timeline. You try to visualize the future, but your emotional system is still anchored in the familiar. You try to elevate your vibration, but your habits pull you back into patterns of contraction. The mind pushes forward, the body pulls backward, and the field mirrors the tug of war. That tug of war is what makes manifestation feel hard. Not the desire, not the technique, not the universe, the internal friction. And here's the part most people never realize. The moment you remove the friction, manifestation becomes astonishingly simple, almost too simple. So simple that your mind doubts it at first, because it's been conditioned to believe that clarity requires effort. But the quantum doesn't operate through effort, it operates through coherence, and coherence is effortless when it finally happens. You've likely felt small moments of this before, pockets of ease where life flowed without resistance, where opportunities opened without forcing, where something you wanted came to you quickly and quietly. In those moments, you weren't using a technique, you weren't pushing, you weren't obsessing, you weren't trying to control the outcome. Your internal conflict dropped temporarily, and your field became clear enough for the universe to respond without distortion. But because you didn't know what caused those moments, you couldn't repeat them. This is where everything begins to shift. Because this time, you're going to understand the mechanism. The reason quantum manifestation feels hard is because you've been trying to create from a state that isn't yet aligned with the reality you want. You've been broadcasting with a divided identity. And a divided identity produces a divided signal. Once you bridge that split, once your inner world stops contradicting itself, once the old frequency stops interfering with the new one, everything changes. The difficulty dissolves. The resistance disappears. The quantum finally has a clear channel to respond to. In the comments, drop one word that describes the internal friction you've been feeling. Maybe it's divided. Maybe it's conflicted. Maybe it's scattered. Maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal you send not just in this space but into the quantum field itself. Before manifestation becomes easy, there is always a period where it feels impossibly heavy, not because the universe is testing you, and not because you're doing anything incorrectly, but because two identities inside you are pulling your energy in opposite directions. One identity is reaching toward the future with intention, desire, clarity, and vision. The other is still shaped by emotional memories, protective patterns, and survival reflexes from your past. These two identities occupy the same internal space, and their mismatch creates the sensation of resistance. This is the stage where most people give up, not realizing that the difficulty they feel is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of transition. You are in between selves, and both are active. One is whispering what's possible. The other is clinging to what's familiar. The friction you feel is the sound of these two voices existing inside one nervous system. Quantum manifestation feels hard when the signal you're broadcasting comes from this divided state. The future identity emits coherence. The past identity emits interference. And the quantum field responds to both until one becomes dominant. This is why you feel like you're taking one step forward and one step back. It's not self-sabotage. It's frequency incongruence. Your old identity is not negative. It's protective. It doesn't want to block your manifestations. It wants to keep you safe. But safety to the nervous system means repetition, familiarity, predictability. Even if the familiar isn't empowering, it's known, and the body prefers known pain to unknown expansion. This is why your system tightens when you try to rise, why your chest closes subtly when you visualize a future identity, why your breath shortens when you imagine a timeline you've never lived before. You're not scared of the future. Your body is scared of becoming someone whose emotional patterns it hasn't memorized yet. Neuroscience calls this the predictive model of the self. Your brain constantly scans your internal state and adjusts your expectations of the future based on the emotional tone you're currently holding. If your emotional baseline was built on survival, stress, hypervigilance, or self-doubt, your brain predicts more of that. Not because it's trying to punish you, but because it's trying to keep your world consistent. Consistency feels like safety. Expansion feels like uncertainty. This internal conflict creates a vibrational split. Your future identity is emitting the frequency of what you want. Your past identity is emitting the frequency of what you've known. These frequencies cancel each other out just enough to make manifestation feel slow, unstable, or confusing. It's like trying to tune into two radio stations at once. All you get is static. That static is the hardness of manifestation. Quantum physics mirrors this pattern through superposition. Until a system collapses into one state, it exists in multiple probabilities at once. Your identity does the same. You exist in two emotional states simultaneously, the one you're trying to embody and the one you're trying to outgrow. Only when coherence stabilizes in one direction does the universe collapse a timeline around it. This is why certain desires feel impossible. They require an identity you haven't fully embodied yet. Not a belief, not a thought. An identity, a nervous system rhythm, an emotional baseline, a felt frequency in the body. The old identity clings to what is known. The new identity pulls you toward what is possible. You stand in the tension between the two. And here's the turning point. The moment you stop trying to force the future and instead focus on dissolving the emotional residue of the past, the difficulty evaporates. Because your problem was never a lack of clarity about the future. It was a lack of coherence in the present. When coherence rises, the path clears instantly. The signal strengthens. The field recognizes you. The timeline accelerates. The transition becomes smooth. Manifestation becomes natural. The hard mode falls away. If you've been feeling this internal tug of war, wanting the future but emotionally anchored to the past, acknowledge it in a way that your nervous system can register. A moment of honesty creates an immediate drop in resistance. Type in the comments, "I release the old signal," not as a ritual, not as a technique, but as a declaration that you're ready to stop broadcasting from two selves at once. Because when your signal stops splitting, the universe stops delaying. If this resonates with you, hit subscribe and click the bell icon next to it. Also, join our Manifestation Club on gogetter.au. This isn't just a channel. This is a frequency. If you felt something shift while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just consuming content here. We're dissolving internal interference. Let's keep rising together. There is a specific moment in your inner evolution where everything you've been struggling to create suddenly becomes easier, almost suspiciously easier. A moment where the inner heaviness dissolves. The mental pressure loosens. And the emotional friction that once made manifestation feel impossible simply drops. Not with force, not with effort, not with a dramatic breakthrough. It falls away quietly, like a weight you didn't realize you were carrying until it's no longer there. This moment is the ease drop. When your system stops fighting itself and coherence finally takes over. It doesn't arrive with excitement. It doesn't make your heart race. It doesn't give you goosebumps or tingles or adrenaline. It arrives as a shift in your baseline signal. A relaxation of something that's been tense for years. A deepening of presence that feels strangely familiar, as if you've returned to a version of yourself you forgot existed. It's subtle but unmistakable. And from this moment forward, manifestation stops requiring effort, because the internal resistance that made everything hard has dissolved. Quantum ease is not a technique. It's a change in the source of your frequency. Most people try to manifest from the level of thought, visualizing, intending, scripting, repeating, imagining. All of that creates movement, but none of it creates stability. True manifestation begins when your emotional baseline shifts. When your nervous system stops predicting a future based on the past and begins broadcasting from the identity you're growing into. This shift is biological. It's measurable. And the moment it happens, your signal becomes coherent enough for the field to rearrange itself around you effortlessly. In physics, this is the reduction of interference, the exact moment when chaotic waves settle into a stable pattern. Before coherence, waves collide unpredictably. After coherence, they amplify each other. Your energy works the same way. When your old identity and your new identity are both active, their frequencies collide, producing noise. But as the past loses emotional weight, the interference dies down. The noise fades. A steady signal emerges. The eavesdrop is that emergence, when the new identity becomes more emotionally real than the old one. You'll recognize this moment through sensations the mind would normally ignore. A deep, unforced exhale, a quiet heaviness in the hands or legs, a feeling of being anchored rather than braced, a neutral openness toward the future, a softness behind the sternum. These sensations are not random, they're physiological markers of coherence. When your inner field organizes itself, your muscles release microtensions, your breath returns to a natural rhythm. Your awareness expands outward instead of collapsing inward. The body expresses alignment before the mind interprets it. Neuroscience explains this as a shift from survival-based prediction to presence-based prediction. When the past stops running the show, your brain stops preparing for fear that no longer belongs to you. The vigilant loops quiet, the emotional noise settles, your system stops expecting threat and starts expecting possibility. And the moment your system expects possibility, the field responds with opportunity. Spiritual traditions have always described this phase as effortlessness, alignment, or the path opening. But what they are really describing is the moment when the self stops contradicting itself. When you no longer say one thing, feel another, and energetically broadcast something else. The eavesdrop happens when all levels of you, mental, emotional, somatic, and spiritual, begin to line up with the same reality. The universe doesn't accelerate because it suddenly favors you. It accelerates because you finally stopped canceling your own signal. This is why manifestation becomes fast after the eavesdrop. When your field stops sending mixed messages, the quantum no longer hesitates. It no longer needs to navigate through interference. It no longer receives contradictory data. Your timeline becomes accessible. Your desires become magnetic. Your intuition becomes reliable. Your path becomes clear. You're not forcing reality, you're matching it. And the most beautiful part is that ease doesn't feel like power. It feels like relief. A sense of, oh, I don't have to fight anymore. You may still want the future you're calling in, but you no longer feel desperate for it. You're open without reaching. You're stable without controlling. You're receptive without waiting. In this state, you don't try to manifest. You embody the version of you for whom manifestation is a natural side effect of coherence. The eavesdrop is the moment you stop trying to change reality, and reality immediately begins changing around you. It's not magic, it's resonance. And resonance is what your future has been waiting for all along. In the comments, share one area of your life where you're ready to experience the eavesdrop. Maybe it's relationships, maybe it's abundance, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's something uniquely yours. Your declaration matters. Your ease matters. Because you matter. There is a moment after the eavesdrop settles into your system when you realize something profound. You are no longer trying to manifest. You are simply becoming the person your manifestations were always trying to reach. The struggle dissolves. The urgency dissolves. The emotional noise dissolves. And what remains is an identity so aligned, so stable, so internally coherent, that reality begins moving around you with a precision that feels almost supernatural. This identity is not built through effort. It's revealed through release. It emerges when the tension you've been carrying stops defining you. When the emotional habits of your past no longer anchor your signal. When your nervous system finally allows you to occupy the version of yourself you've been stretching toward for months, sometimes years. This is the effortless identity. The self that no longer grasps at the future because it has become compatible with it. Effortlessness in manifestation isn't laziness or detachment from life. It's the natural state of a system that's no longer divided. When your inner world stops contradicting itself, you don't have to force alignment. You are alignment. You don't have to chase outcomes. Outcomes rise to meet you. You don't have to search for signs. Signs cluster around your path like magnetic coordinates. The world becomes responsive because your frequency has become readable. In this identity, your field is calm but powerful, not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakably organized. Physics would describe this as a stable coherence pattern. A field with minimal interference, where energy flows cleanly and consistently. And the universe responds to consistency with synchronicity. When your field is coherent, the quantum doesn't hesitate. It doesn't need to interpret fragmented signals or navigate emotional noise. It simply aligns. People often believe manifestation should feel intense. A surge of excitement, a burst of passion, a lightning strike of clarity. But that intensity belongs to the versions of yourself that were still trying to break free from limiting patterns. Once you step into the effortless identity, you stop experiencing manifestation as a breakthrough and start experiencing it as a rhythm. Life moves with you instead of against you. Opportunities arrive without friction. Conversations flow. Decisions feel guided. Timing feels sculpted around your presence. Effortlessness feels like this: a softened chest, a quiet mind, a body that's no longer bracing, a nervous system that trusts your path more than your thoughts do, a sense that your future is no longer ahead of you, it's beside you. This level of identity doesn't negotiate with doubt, because doubt doesn't register within its frequency. It doesn't need reassurance, because its stability comes from internal resonance, not external evidence. It doesn't chase clarity, because clarity emerges naturally when you're not interfering with yourself. The effortless identity doesn't perform trust, it embodies it. As this identity strengthens, reality begins to mirror you with startling speed. You'll notice opportunities that once required immense effort now appear with minimal movement. People respond differently. Choices feel lighter. Your internal compass becomes reliable. The path unfolds not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped broadcasting mixed signals. When your energy is unified, the universe doesn't have to guess what you want. It recognizes you instantly. And here's the subtle truth most people never reach. Once manifestation becomes effortless, you stop thinking about manifestation altogether. You stop analyzing timelines. You stop measuring progress. You stop wondering if the universe is responding. Instead, you live from a state where your internal alignment shapes reality without conscious supervision. Manifestation becomes a background process, automatic, precise, and predictable. Because coherence, not effort, is now your baseline. If, as you listen to this, you can feel even a slight resonance, a quiet knowing that you're ready to step into this version of yourself, then trust that feeling. That is your field reorganizing. That is your emotional body releasing its grip on old timelines. That is your nervous system preparing to broadcast from a higher identity. And if you want to deepen this shift, if you want to stabilize coherence, remove the subtle interference that's been slowing your manifestations, and embody the identity your future is already aligned with, there is a path designed exactly for this stage of evolution. Everything you need to anchor this effortless identity is inside the Awaken Your Quantum Power ebook and its practical companion guide. They are crafted to help you dissolve internal friction, elevate your frequency, and live from the level where reality responds to you naturally and consistently. You'll find the link waiting in the pinned comment. If your energy feels open, follow it. This is where your new timeline begins. Not through effort, but through coherence. Make sure you share this video with your loved ones. You might just be the blessing in disguise they need today. Remember, you're not just sharing, you're spreading coherence and ease. And that energy will dissolve every point of resistance between them and the reality they've been trying to reach.